I'd like to bring in Therapat here, who's sitting in front there. He's a professor of mass communications in Chiang Mai University in Thailand, and also one of Asia Calling's partner in Thailand. Now, I understand, Therapat, in comparison with the Indonesian schools, in Thailand, every school has all the ASEAN flags and the ASEAN flag standing in Thailand. Why was that pushed for, and what is the feeling in Thailand about the ASEAN community as opposed to somewhere here in Indonesia?
Yes, good morning, ASEAN from Thailand. I love this word. And I will spread to my students back in Thailand. Like Irin said, for the business sector, they're ready for AEC for long time. And when ASEAN come along, ASEAN community come along, and I think we afraid that people get the mistake. AEC is not ASEAN community. It's just only one pillar. So we do a lot of campaign, and we encourage the student to understand ASEAN community through the activities like exhibition. We have kids dressing in national costumes of ASEAN member states all over school, and they have the ASEAN corner and ASEAN library also to let the student to self-study. And one thing I think is a big move of Thailand education. Start this semester, we will change the academic calendar from the month of June to August. So first semester will begin in August, not in June anymore. Start this year to let the student freely to exchange the student, just like the student from Indonesia can do a master degree or something like that in Thailand university, all universities.
ASEAN community is not just 2015, there we are, you're an ASEAN community. No, it's a long way to go to get this ASEAN feeling instilled in all the peoples. So there's much to do.
So there's a lot of journalists in the room. Sharat, can I ask you to stand up and join in the debate from BFN in Malaysia? Are we as journalists responsible for being a partner in creating this ASEAN community?
For certain, I think in many ways journalists around the region have been participating in discussions about the region and its issues. I know for some of us it's troubling to talk about families, to talk about a single family. That kind of messaging grates on, I think, some of us who are much more critical about how things actually operate. And perhaps we could step back from that kind of language and be more realistic in the way we talk about the region and what actually is happening. So it's fine to talk about cuisine, and it's fine to talk about costumes, but we need to talk about conflict, and we do need to talk honestly about all the other issues that are putting a damper on the region moving forward.
And you said a very good analogy yesterday that I want to bring live on the radio and the television about what happens when something goes wrong in the family. For example, if the father is beating the wife in that family along the street, what do the other houses in that street do? So would you want to expand on that?
Yeah, this comes from actually something that Danny had said, and I don't take issue with Danny on this. On the face of it, yes, okay, so we are a series of families living on the same street. And the question was, what if one of the fathers in one of those families is abusing his wife? What is the responsibility of the other families, the other members are in that street, right? But can we sacrifice that woman who's being abused just to keep face, a safe face for the father in that family? I think not. I think we've come to a stage where we need to have standards that say, beyond certain issues, we cannot condone violence, so we should never condone and allow for the woman of that house to be sacrificed in order to keep that father happy.
In such an incident, so do the other 9 families come out and tie up the husband? Or, there are many ways of going around doing it. So
Jump
because
in,
I think the important point is to make the perpetrator accountable. And how will ASEAN make the family accountable if one member of the family is not behaving well and there is intense violation of rights, happening? How will it? And it can't, because it has the issue of non-interference. And that's part of the problem, one of the key problems of the lack of political will.
Let's not forget non-interference. When the ASEAN Bangkok Declaration was drafted back in 1967, basically referred to a means of preventing ASEAN governments from supporting armed rebellions in other ASEAN countries. Because at that time, various armed groups were being supported or even armed by certain neighbors. But now, what we've seen is the use of interference as a blanket gag on preventing the frank discussion of critical issues that need to be resolved. The government of Myanmar at the ASEAN ministerial meeting used non-interference to gag other ASEAN governments when talking about atrocities against Rohingya people.
I'll bring into the debate now Ai-chan. Ai-chan is the director of DVB, which is a leading media organization in Myanmar. Welcome to the debate.
The problem in the ASEAN from the beginning is those governments in the ASEANs, many of them are not really representing the people in their own country. From the beginning until as late as last year. For example, we have seen in Malaysia, we have seen in Cambodia, we have seen in our own country in 2010. But they're the ones that are making all these big decisions, which should have been consulted with the people in the respective countries. I mean, look at EU, whatever they have big decision, you have a referendum in their own country before the current government decide to follow the EU rule or law. But we have this situation now that the decision it's already made and not really consulting with the people. And now we have a situation that how we can consult the people in. So this is almost an impossible task. So my question is, do you think it's possible for each individual ASEAN government start doing the clean and fair election in their own country, and also start consulting the people and recognizing the right the people deserve?
This is something which even ASEAN Secretariat can answer you. Because at the end of the day, the reality of the matter is that we are 10 individual countries. Now, intervention is something which, yes, well-meaning, it always says that no, we want to intervene. But globally, if you look at it, it's not something easy. If you look at it, yes, we say that, okay, we hold, using the same example again, we hold the husband accountable. How do you hold the husband accountable? When you go into details like that, then also comes the next question. If the other ASEAN member states, say for instance, the question of Myanmar, like what you say, if we had not waited and Myanmar opened up for reform, say 10 years ago, we decide to intervene in Myanmar, how are we going to do that? Are we able to cope with the outcome coming from there? These are all the questions which governments are, why they are reluctant to intervene. Yes, a lot of people say, oh, this non-interference thing and so on, or it's a cop-out. But I think in reality, I know there are a lot of discussions, there's also peer pressure. This is something, again, do I turn to the laws every time, or do I rely on peer pressure? Peer pressure is slow, it's not ideal. But just going to somewhere to enforce, and who's going to enforce? Within ASEAN itself, we look at the 10 member states, are we going to set up an ASEAN police force?
We can't keep on saying, give us time, because I'm nearly 50. I'm almost the same age as ASEAN. In fact, my birthday is a day before ASEAN. And if my family says, hey, why are you taking so long to grow up and be responsible? And I say, give me time, I will be excommunicated. I'll be kicked out of the family and say, this is a hopeless case. So I think we need to be quite realistic and say, Let's get on with integration in the best way possible. We need commitment to rule of law. That means laws that benefit people, that are fair, that are consistent with human rights principles.
We're going to have to round it up there, Debbie, because we've run out of time for our discussion here on Green Radio on 89.2 FM. But I thank you very much to our distinguished panel of guests here at the ASEAN Foundation in Menteng. I thank you very much for your discussion, and for our very intelligent and lively audience here. Thank you very much for your questions and comments. You can find out more about our program, and if you want to watch it again, you'll find it on portal kbr.com on Asia Calling, where there will be the video and also of the audio of today's discussion. Thank you very much. I'm Rebecca Henschke. Goodbye for now.